Sometimes confidence looks, from the outside, like something dramatic and impressive. A powerful speech, a decisive move, a fearless decision. But if you slow things down and look from the inside, you start to see something very different. You notice that confidence rarely begins with big gestures. Most of the time, it starts quietly, almost unnoticed, in small moments where you decide not to step away from yourself. A thought you usually ignore, you follow this time. A tiny action you usually postpone, you do today. A conversation you keep rehearsing in your mind, you finally begin. And slowly, almost without realizing it, those moments change the way you stand, the way you speak, and the way you handle your own fear. We're taught, directly or indirectly, that confidence is a feeling, that one day we'll simply wake up and feel bold, certain, unshaken. And because we believe that, we spend years waiting. We wait for the fear to go away. We wait for the self-doubt to calm down. We wait to feel ready. But the longer you live, the more you notice that this moment of pure readiness never really arrives. There is always a bit of hesitation, a bit of uncertainty, a bit of, "What if this goes wrong?" humming in the background. And if you think confidence means that voice disappears, you'll assume you're not built for the kind of life you secretly want. But confidence is not the absence of that voice. Confidence is what happens when you stop letting that voice decide what you do. The people you see as confident are not necessarily fearless. Many of them still have doubts that follow them into every new situation. The difference is that they've learned not to treat doubt as a command. They treat it as a background noise, not a verdict. They act anyway. They speak anyway. They show up anyway. And through that steady repetition, their mind slowly rewrites the story it tells about who they are. If you think about your own life, you can probably find proof of this already. Think of a time you had to do something that scared you. A presentation, an interview, a difficult conversation, a move, a decision that could change your path. Before it happened, your mind was full of what-ifs. Your chest was tight. Your breath was shallow. You imagined everything that could go wrong. But once you stepped into the moment, something began to shift. It might not have been smooth or perfect, but the fear slowly reduced. Your body adjusted. Your mind started observing what was actually happening instead of imagining what might happen. And by the time it was over, you were different from the person who stood at the edge. What happened there is simple but important. Your brain finally had evidence. This is one of the most important things to understand about confidence. Your brain trusts what you show it, not what you tell it. You can repeat to yourself that you are strong, capable, or worthy. But if your daily behavior is dominated by avoidance, the deeper part of your mind believes the avoidance. It believes the retreat. It believes the pattern of stepping back. On the other hand, when you do something difficult, no matter how small, the mind has to acknowledge it. It records it. It adds it to the file labeled "Who I Am." Over time, those small entries become a narrative, and that narrative is what we experience as confidence. People often think they have a motivation problem or a discipline problem, when, in reality, they have an evidence problem. They have years of evidence that they hesitate, avoid, or delay, and almost no evidence that they can walk into discomfort and come out still standing. It's not that they're incapable, it's that their brain has nothing real to lean on. And that is something you can change, slowly but very reliably, starting from where you are right now. One of the simplest ways to begin is to lower the size of the step you're demanding from yourself. Many people only count big, impressive actions as worthy. They want to start a business, so they imagine quitting everything and leaping. They want to get fit, so they imagine perfect routines and strict diets. They want to be better at speaking, so they imagine themselves on a huge stage. And because the image is so big, the nervous system reacts with resistance. The step feels too large, and they retreat before they even begin. But confidence doesn't care about how big the first step looks from the outside. It cares about whether you took it. You can rebuild your relationship with yourself by making the first step much smaller. Almost simple. A 10-minute walk. A single difficult message sent, a short call. A page written. One sentence spoken in a meeting where you usually stay silent. On paper, these actions don't look impressive. They won't make headlines. No one may even notice. But your nervous system notices. Your mind notices. The part of you that's been quietly collecting evidence about who you are notices. And something begins to change. You can think of it like this. Every time you do something that makes you slightly uncomfortable, but is still safe, you cast a vote for a different identity. You are teaching your mind. When I feel fear, I don't immediately run. I observe it, and I can still move. At first, the votes are few. The older story still feels heavier. I avoid, I wait, I play safe. But with each repeated action, the new story gains weight. You start to believe, not because you forced yourself to believe, but because the evidence is there, and your mind cannot deny it anymore. This is why tracking your actions, even in a simple way, can be powerful, not in a rigid or obsessive sense, but as a reminder to your future self. A notebook, a note on your phone, a very simple log. Today I did this one thing that scared me a bit. Today I showed up when I wanted to hide. Today I said what I usually swallow. Today I began something I've been postponing. When you look back after a week, a month, or 3 months, you realize you are not the same person you were when you started. You didn't transform overnight, but you consistently stepped toward a different version of yourself. Confidence builds slowly, then suddenly. There's another layer to this. The relationship between fear and movement. Many people wait for fear to drop to 0 before they act. They assume that when they're truly confident, they won't feel any discomfort at all. But human physiology doesn't work that way. The fear you feel before doing something new is often highest right before you begin. It is your brain's attempt to protect you from uncertainty. Once you are in the situation and your senses are engaged with reality instead of imagined scenarios, your nervous system recalibrates. The fear may still be present, but it softens. In other words, you don't calm down and then start. You start and then you calm down. If you can accept this, you stop waiting for perfect emotional conditions. You understand that a racing heart, a tight throat, or shaky hands are not signs you should stop. They are signs that you are at the edge of something meaningful. Confidenceable people are not those who never feel this. They are those who felt it many times and still moved forward enough to see it fade. Let's make this even more practical. Think of one area of your life where you keep saying, "I wish I were more confident." It could be speaking up, meeting people, making decisions, setting boundaries, or starting something new. Take that area and, instead of looking for a huge, dramatic action, look for the smallest possible action you can take in that area within the next 24 hours. Something you can actually do. Not dream about. Not plan endlessly. Do. Maybe it's telling someone calmly and clearly what you really prefer instead of just agreeing. Maybe it's asking one genuine question in a group where you usually stay on the sidelines. Maybe it's making a simple, practical decision instead of asking for endless opinions. Whatever it is, if it nudges you slightly outside your comfort zone and you follow through, you've already started building a different kind of evidence. And here's where it becomes dangerously confident. When you start collecting enough of these experiences, you become less dependent on perfect scenarios, on other people's approval, on external conditions lining up. You become someone who trusts their capacity to handle imperfection. You know you can go into a situation, feel awkward, feel unsure, maybe even make a mistake, and still be okay. That kind of self-trust is powerful. It's dangerous, in the sense that it's no longer easy to manipulate you with fear or doubt. You're not fragile in the face of uncertainty anymore. There is a quiet strength in saying to yourself, I might not do this perfectly, but I can survive doing it imperfectly. That sentence alone opens doors. It takes the pressure off. It replaces the impossible standard of flawless execution with something more human, showing up honestly, doing your best with what you know now, and being willing to learn from the result. Learning is another piece of confidence we rarely talk about. Many people tie their sense of worth to whether things go well on the first try. If they stumble, they decide, I'm not good at this, and they stop altogether. But confident people relate to failure differently. They don't enjoy it, of course, no one does, but they don't see it as a final judgment. They see it as information. This approach didn't work. What can I adjust next time? In their mind, failure is still uncomfortable, but it is not fatal. And that perspective, over time, allows them to attempt many more things than the person who retreats at the first sign of imperfection. The beautiful part is, this perspective isn't reserved for a certain type of person. It's something you can adopt gradually. You can decide that each time something doesn't go the way you hoped, you will resist the urge to label yourself and instead ask, what did this teach me about how I can do it differently next time? That one mental shift turns failures from proof that you're not enough into fuel for growth. And when failure stops being a threat to your identity, you become far more willing to act, and that again builds confidence. All of this leads to a simple conclusion. You don't need a loud, dramatic transformation to become confidently yourself. You don't need to become a different person. You don't need to erase your sensitivity, your doubts, or your quiet nature. You just need to stop stepping away from the very moments that would show you who you really are when you allow yourself to act. Sometimes dangerous confidence is nothing more than the decision to stop betraying yourself. To stop saying no to everything your deeper self is quietly asking you to try. To stop treating fear as proof that you're weak. And to start seeing it as a signpost pointing toward the next meaningful step in your growth. If you were to choose one thing today, just one, and move toward it despite the hesitation, what would it be? Not the most impressive thing, not the thing that would look good from the outside. The thing that, if you did it, you would go to sleep tonight feeling quietly proud of yourself. Maybe it's a phone call, maybe it's a boundary, maybe it's working for 30 minutes on something you've delayed for months. Maybe it's speaking honestly with someone close to you. Whatever it is, that step is where your confidence begins. Give yourself that proof. Let your mind see you act. Let your body feel what it's like to move with fear, not against it. Let today be one of those small, almost invisible moments where the story you've believed about yourself starts to loosen. Because once that story loosens, it can change. And once it changes, confidence stops being something you chase and starts being something you naturally grow into. You don't have to rush. You don't have to force anything. You just have to be willing not to walk away from yourself this time. If you can do that, even in one small way, then in these 10 minutes, you've already started becoming dangerously confident. Dangerous not to others, but to the version of your life that kept you small, hesitant, and waiting. And from here, every step you take is a reminder. You were always more capable than you allowed yourself to believe.